Come, let us explore odd benefits of some meditations for the survivors of narcissistic abuse. This evening's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found on Reddit. The question begins, cryptically, meditation, self-identity, and then the question elaborates. Or I should say the questioner elaborates. I grew up with extremely controlling parents. Perhaps narcissistic, but maybe not, because they do have empathy. I still work for my dad, but it's a great opportunity. But I'm a 37-year-old male and still single. I have opportunity, but just feel like I'm not allowed to get married or move on freely with my own life. I know I can, but I subconsciously feel like I have no self-identity. So let's pause right there. I have no PhD. I have no license to practice psychotherapy. That is why I refer people to psychotherapists. But I will say that as one who is an adult survivor of narcissistic abuse, those things that you just mentioned are big, flaming red flags. Oddly enough, in the second season of Saturday Night Live way back in the 70s, that's right, folks, when the crust of the earth was still cooling. And by the way, I owe you an apology. I'm a rather disabled fellow, and typically I take a nap an hour or two before I teach a class. No nap today, so if I seem like I'm a quart low, that's why. Let's continue. So, in the second season of Saturday Night Live, Lorraine Newman played a child psychologist. And good old Gilda Radner played the patient. And she was asked to find a toy that represented Daddy, and so she found a male doll. And then she asked to find a toy that represented Mommy, and so she found a female doll. And then she was asked to find a toy that represented her, and so she picked a tape dispenser. And the child psychologist explained that she felt dehumanized. She felt like an object. Now, yes, that was a joke, and it was really humorously done. And once again, this was the mid-70s. But it brings up a valid point. There is something dehumanizing, depersonalizing about a loss of agency. When one person's self-esteem requires that others, the self-esteem of others, be demeaned and reduced, that is not healthy. That smacks of a cluster B personality disorder. To me, that sounds like a behavior of malignant narcissism, to quote the late Eric Fromm. So in a few minutes, I'm going to recommend a link to you for an agency that provides you with a free database, well, to the best of my knowledge, a free database of psychologists, licensed psychologists, men and women of letters, whose practice emphasizes and caters to the adult survivors of narcissistic abuse. It is in your best interest to reach out to someone who specializes in this and work with them. Let's continue. I know I can, but subconsciously I feel like I have no self-identity. I realized I'm afraid to be dating because if I get questioned or challenged, I get extremely angry and my body tends to overreact. So I'm going to jump ahead for a moment and show you an image. That sounds salacious, but you know what I mean. I'm going to show you an artist's rendering of the cross-section of a human brain. So this area right here, this thing that kind of looks like a pea, that's called the amygdala, and it functions as the seat of both aggression and anxiety. For the survivors of narcissistic abuse, which doesn't take place once, but over a span of years, this amygdala tends to be enlarged. In the brain, we observe neuroplasticity. The more you use a pathway, the stronger and thicker and more resilient it becomes. The more we rely on our anterior cingulate gyrus, the more we rely on our amygdala, got my words confused, the bigger it will get. And the more effective it will be at generating anxiety and aggression stronger and quicker. So once again, that is an additional red flag. And don't worry, there are therapies for that. There are techniques for that. I'm not going to leave you in the lurch. Let's go back to your question. I think the root of this is because I literally do not know who I am, what I like, what I really want for me or a future family. I just feel adrift. Once again, when a child is not allowed to be a child, when the child's life revolves around the parent, meeting the parent's needs, living in service to the parent, not only is that role reversal untraditional, it prevents the healthy development of the child. The child is supposed to metaphorically feed off the parent, not the other way around. I am sorry that you endured that. It was not your fault. You did not imagine it. You did not earn it. This was not a punishment. This was a cruel trick of fate perpetrated against you. I am glad that you're an adult now, that you have agency, and you can move away from your parents' sphere of influence. This could seem frightening and best done under the guidance of a therapist who has a shit ton of experience doing this. But it is going to be necessary. You're 34, your years of apprenticeship are over. Bach flower wild oat is helping me breathe better. Meditation has helped in the past. Anyone with similar experience or recommendations or type of meditations to help me? Yes, you've come to the right place. Difficulty breathing, unless it's because of, some sort of an allergy, can be a symptom of anxiety. And you might experience some superficial temporary relief from a Bach flower remedy, but it's no substitute for finding and working with a reliable expert. So let us begin with broad brushstrokes. Tonight I just added this, what's it called? This link to the description area of future videos. It isn't in this one. That's just how things worked electronically tonight. But it's right here on the screen right now. You can pause this. You can write it down. You can pause this on your computer and search it on your smartphone, or vice versa. But you can move forward right now. You can make a call, or you can look up and just start scrolling on what's it called? The database to find someone close to you. Now, there's two ways to do this. You could do this for telehealth over your computer, or you could do it in person. If you are healthy enough to go in person, please go in person. The quality of the communication is so much better in person. We evolved to communicate not just verbally, but non-verbally. In fact, psychologically speaking, non-verbal communication has a stronger impact than verbal communication. You're not going to get that as much over a Zoom call. So if you can, by all means, see a therapist in person enthusiastically. I'm not going to lie to you. This is not like a one deal thing where you have one conversation and then you're a new man. This is going to be a project, and it's going to be uncomfortable. But this is necessary for your next step so that you can have a fulfilling, happy life. You were born to have a fulfilling, happy life. You deserve this. There are two additional things we can do: seated meditation and walking meditation. So I would like to explore seated meditation through the lens of neuroscience. Now, this is going to sound really, really silly, but before I can meaningfully tell you how to meditate, I have to warn you about some common pitfalls. These pitfalls exist not because you're stupid and not because you're not spiritual. They exist because of Sturgeon's Law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks. And that refers to, the 90%, the majority of people, the majority of meditation teachers tend to be rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. And so these people, with the utmost of sincerely feel that it is in your best interest to actively focus and actively analyze. There's a problem with that. The only parts of the brain that are capable of doing that are the specific sections of a brain, such as the medial prefrontal cortex or the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. The more we do that for 1 minute or 10 minutes or 20 minutes, the more we're going to stimulate our amygdala, our seat of aggression and anxiety. So clearly, you don't need any more aggression and anxiety. No thanks. Our cabinets are full. So fortunately, the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex are not the only components of our central nervous system. The seventh fold of the Buddha's eightfold path is mindfulness. What is the most efficient and effective method of practicing mindfulness? Simple. Silently, mentally, and passively recite the demonstrative pronoun this during each exhalation. Doing so induces our cerebral cortex to cooperate with our sympathetic nervous system. This bad boy is ensconced within the middle third of our spinal cord, and it has evolved to help us perceive vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. What has it evolved to help us perceive? Sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like, including emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. But what are we to do with that which we notice? That brings us to meditation, the eighth fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. What is the most efficient and effective way of practicing meditation? Easy. Silently, mentally, and passively recite the one-syllable verb ease during each exhalation. Doing so induces that same cerebral cortex to cooperate with our parasympathetic nervous system. This parasympathetic nervous system is found in both the lower third as well as the upper third of that same spinal cord. This parasympathetic nervous system has evolved to help us to both physically relax as well as mentally release. This brings us to walking meditation. In his book, Walking Your Blues Away, Dr. Tom Hartman, PhD, explored brisk walking meditation through the lens of neuroscience. He found that it is a highly effective way of massaging the hippocampus, an organelle within our brain that is instrumental in the perpetuation and or healing of trauma. Our hippocampus kind of acts like the guard, standing before the entrance to long-term memory. And until a memory can enter long-term storage, our body treats it as a current event, as something that's happening right now. We cannot think our way out of that. We cannot believe our way out of that. We cannot emote our way out of that. But we can condition our way out of that. When we are doing brisk walking meditation, taking loping steps and swinging our arms, that asymmetric stimulation sort of acts as if it was massaging our hippocampus, helping us to process things from our present time all the way back to early childhood. Now, when performing walking meditation, I recommend 3 caveats. Number 1, if you're in turmoil, don't try crossing the street. Just walk around your block. That'll work. Do it for 20 or 40 or 60 minutes. And of course, you want to make sure you have your doctor's, approval before, instituting exercise. But most of us can walk. Number 2 is that when you're doing walking meditation, these one-syllable words won't really coordinate well with your breath. And so you'll want to use 3-syllable versions. So during your inhalation, you'll want to silently and mentally recite the verb perceiving. During the exhalation, you'll want to silently and mentally recite releasing. Now, these are not affirmations, because affirmations are lies we help ourselves, magically hoping that they will transform us. Perceiving and relaxing are labels to describe processes that are occurring during each inhalation and during each exhalation. Why do we recite them? To help our cerebral cortex to act in cooperation with our autonomic nervous system. Here's point 3. If you don't feel safe walking outside, maybe it's dark, maybe it's snowy or rainy, then of course you can use a treadmill, but just keep your hands off the railings. This isn't a workout for your body. This is a workout for your mind. Now, will there be physical fringe benefits? Yes. But you don't want to set the, the treadmill for Mount Everest. And you don't want to be hanging onto the bars because you want your arms swinging. That's super important. Swinging arms, very important. Do this every 12 hours for 20 or 40 or 60 minutes, and it will help. No, it's not going to erase your past, but it will help you cope with it. No, it's not a substitute for finding a psychologist for whom dealing with survivors of narcissistic abuse is their specialty. But it's a lovely adjunct. I look forward to doing a bit of chanting with you and a bit of meditation with you after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. Now, I'm beginning to fade fast. I apologize for that. But what I've got, I will gladly share with you. Come, let us practice this evening's latest iteration of letting go mindfulness meditation and love. When I was a little boy, I take that back. When I was in elementary school and junior high and high school, the coaches insisted that before the main event we warm up and after the main event we cool down. We're going to do the same thing mentally. So we're going to begin with our wisdom-oriented warm-up. Please chant with me. We begin with the circumstantial. Observing the coming and going of appearing circumstantial phenomena helps us to see, however changing one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp. So we're going to take all these words and reduce them down to just 6 syllables that we're going to divide between our inhalation and our exhalation. We turn now to the physical. Together, feeling the coming and going of sensual physical phenomena. Helps us to feel, however changing one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp. So once again, we're taking all these words and coalescing them into just 6 syllables that we're going to divide between our inhalation and our exhalation. We turn now to the Vedana interpersonal. Listening to the coming and going of resounding interpersonal phenomena helps us to hear how ever-changing one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp. We conclude our warm-up with the Chitta mental. Noticing the coming and going of lucid mental phenomena helps us to clearly perceive how ever-changing one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp. And now we come to this evening's main event, where we spontaneously notice, where we bring whatever we spontaneously perceive into the paths of awareness and release, also known as mindfulness and meditation. If you've just joined me, the most efficient way to practice mindfulness is to silently, mentally, and passively recite the demonstrative pronoun this during each inhalation. Similarly, the most efficient way to practice meditation is to silently, mentally, and passively recite the one-syllable verb ease during each exhalation. So, here's what I'd like to do. I'd like us to perform multiple collections of 12 sets of 12 repetitions, or 12 rounds. That's a mouthful. How are we going to do that? Now, by the way, this might seem overwhelming. That's fine. Come to these live streams once every 12 hours or so, and within a week or two, this technique you'll master. So we begin with our right hand, and during the inhalation, when we're silently and mentally reciting this, we're going to advance the tip of our right hand, beginning with the base of our little finger, and then working our way up to the top of our index finger. Let's do this together right now. So that was one set of 12. On our left hand, we can count multiple sets of 12. Our first set of 12, our second set of 12, our third set of 12, our fourth set of 12, and so on. How will we keep track of which collection we're on? Simple, by using our knuckles. For the first collection, we'll simply rest the great knuckle at the base of our right little finger upon the tip of our left little finger. For the second collection, we switch fingers and knuckles, and so forth, and so on. But we keep our hands in our lap, palms up. Just like we see in this photograph of a wooden statue of the Buddha. let us. Now it's time for the warm down of love. I should say the cool down of love. Since we are not alone in our mental frustrations, we could also long that others' mental needs also be met. Since we are not alone in our interpersonal frustrations, we could also long that others' interpersonal needs also be met. Since we are not alone in our physical frustrations, we could also long that others' physical needs also be met. Since we are not alone in our circumstantial frustrations, we could also long that other circumstantial needs also be met. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 11 hours or so, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's early meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.